Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. Happy Monday to you. It has been a fantastic weekend, and now it is time to get on with the week. Hope you guys made it a fantastic one as well. Man, I felt just so appreciated this weekend. I went down to the members appreciation party and really had a wonderful Saturday. But my weekend was completely full of awesome things, of awesome people, of awesome places, and yeah, I feel like my heart has been completely filled up just from spending so much time with all the people that I love. So I hope that you guys had a fantastic weekend as well. And yeah, today we are going to do the same thing that we do every day. I'm going to pull a card off the top of my deck. I'm going to ask you if you are in the affirmation on the card, and we are going to respond out loud together. I am that affirmation. So let's bring some good words into our lives. Let's bring something positive and empowering into our world. Let's once again continue to come together and really affirm the truth of who we are. And as we affirm these empowering things, we are bringing them even more into our lives. So yeah, I want to say good morning to everybody who's here today. Good morning, Lauren and Shauna, Dan and Amanda and Janet. It is wonderful to have you guys here today. Thank you so much for being here, as well as the other people who haven't said anything yet, who are just kind of watching the show but haven't said good morning yet. You say good morning to me, I'll say good morning to you. Anyhow, let's have some fun. Pull a card off the top of the deck and say that today I am peaceful. I am peaceful. I cultivate serenity in my soul. So I am peaceful. I cultivate serenity in my soul. Are you peaceful? You are peaceful. You cultivate serenity in your soul. And indeed you are, and I am as well. And so let's write that down in the comments. I'm going to write down that I am peaceful, that I cultivate serenity in my soul. Good morning, John L. Nice to see you here today. I am peaceful today. I cultivate serenity in my soul. And what does that really mean to do that? I think that in life we are all searching for something, but I think that the primary things that we're searching for are not things. They're not accolades. They're not honorifics bestowed upon us by other people. Well, what everybody is searching for is a bit of peace in our existence. To realize that we might not know exactly why we are here, but at least we can have a good time while it's happening. And so I am peaceful, and I cultivate serenity in my soul. In fact, I wrote that down in the comments, and I encourage you to as well, because as we write things down in the comments, we are making them even more real. We are making them even more legitimate. Good morning, Eric. Good morning, Susan. Good to see you guys here today. We are some peaceful folks. We cultivate serenities in our soul, and serenity really is something that must be cultivated. Serenity is something that happens over time. We don't just wake up one day and know how to be at peace. Peace is something that we cultivate through years of experiencing adversity and learning how not to let it bother us, learning how to just sort of let it be like the water off a duck's back, just kind of rolling right off there and having it not disturb our peace. I heard somebody say once that the size of a person is the size of the problem that gets them down, and so what the person was talking about was how when as we grow and as we develop, the size of the problem that actually affects us gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I know this is true because some of the most developed people, some of the most successful people that I've ever met, I've watched them deal with problems that would cause me to tear my hair out and scream, and they just sort of sat down and dealt with it. They just sort of handled whatever business was coming up. And I aspire to have that level of peace. I aspire to have that level of presence. Sometimes problems do get me down, and when they do, then I realize that that was the border, that's the boundary, that's the limitation of my own growth and self development. And so when something comes along in life that disturbs my peace, that knocks me off of that cloud that I'm sitting on, when something comes and does that, I realize that that's my own border. That's a place that there's an opportunity for me to grow more, for me to be at peace even more. And so I am at peace, and I cultivate serenity in my soul. And how do I cultivate it? Serenity is a wonderful thing to experience, that inner peace that surpasses understanding. But how do we cultivate such things? And I say that we cultivate such things by just continuing to get into the situations that life presents to us and being okay with things that perhaps we wouldn't have been okay with yesterday. Of realizing that something which has profoundly affected us yesterday does not need to necessarily affect us today. And so and it's when we recognize that this world is happening and it is external to us, and that we really don't have a whole heck of a lot of control, that we have control over what we perceive, that we have control over how we feel about it, but we don't really have much control over what actually is, of what is being presented to us in our reality. Then that gives us that serenity. It gives us that peace when when we recognize that the primary thing that we have control of is our own emotions, the things that the things that we experience, and the way that that we react to the things that happen. Then it allows us to cultivate that inner peace, to cultivate that serenity. So I am peaceful, and I cultivate serenity in my soul. And I realize that I'm talking to people on the internet, and not everybody perhaps believes that we even have a soul. And so what does this card mean for people who don't actually believe that there's any spiritual component to their lives? And of course, I would say to that we all know what we feel like when we feel upset. We all know what we feel like when something has when something has just gotten to us, and everything in our lives feels more sensitive because we are upset, because our peace has been shattered. And what I would say to anybody who would argue with me about the existence of a soul, which is definitely not something that is the scope of this broadcast, but what I would say to anybody there is just, hey, then in which case, simply cultivate that sense of peace and serenity in your own inner knowing of yourself and your own inner world. Because whether we believe that our own inner world is indicative of something eternal or not is immaterial. What is important for us to believe is that we have some modicum of control over how we feel about what's going on around us. And when we exercise that control, when we go from being reactive to being responsive, it gives us a tremendous sense of presence, which gives us a tremendous sense of mastery over life. Uh, I was reading a really interesting article about the whole concept of mastery, and the person who wrote the article basically said that somebody becomes a master when they understand how to be fully present. That their presence is an indication of their mastery, and how do we cultivate that presence except by being at peace with whatever is? When we love what is, when we are at peace with what is, when we recognize that what is does not necessarily need to affect how we feel about what is, it becomes so much easier to be present to life. And as we are present to life, and as we cultivate that serenity, we become peaceful. We become peaceful people. We become people who do not desire to spread discord because of how it disturbs our inner world. I know that when I was younger and a lot less developed than I am today, that sowing discord or creating a little bit of chaos was something that I absolutely would do. Sometimes just to watch what would happen. Sometimes just to see what would go down if I told one person one thing and another person another thing, and I got to watch them as they interacted with both of those incorrect pieces of information that I had fed them. And of course, that was it might have been amusing for me to watch that back when before I really cared about other people. But as I started to develop a caring and a love and a compassion for other people, I stopped doing that because I realized that sowing discord inside of other people was not granting me the serenity that I sought out. And so I became so much more peaceful. I cultivated so much more serenity when I just stopped minding everybody else's business and started minding my own. And so I am peaceful today, and you are peaceful too. And so this card is our permission slip today to cultivate some serenity and really work on that internal serenity. So I want to say thank you guys again so much for being here. It is wonderful to see that you. It's always wonderful to see when you guys are commenting and sharing and just being the awesome people that you are. Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate that this card is so mesmerizing. I love this picture. I thought it was such a cool picture. I love, I like to do like mountain hiking, and I've been to a couple of like really placid mountain lakes where it's kind of even improbable that the water has gathered that high. But yeah, as I went and walked, up and around to these mountain lakes, I uh, I always had this wonderful sense of peace and serenity, and that's why I grabbed this picture for the "You Are Peaceful" card. That for me, cultivating serenity in my soul is something that happens after a nice long walk to a nice peaceful place. All right, yeah. Let's see here. So yeah, Susan has this wonderful serenity prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think that last part, that wisdom to know the difference part, is so tremendously important to realize that there are some things we can and some things that we cannot change, and to know, and when we recognize the difference, that gives us peace because I don't have to like what's happening all the time. But what I do have, but what it is important for me to do is to experience peace about whatever's happening, and I can do that when I recognize that whatever's going on if it's something with that I do have the ability to control or influence, that I am doing that in accordance with my values. And then if it's not something I have the ability to control and influence, that I'm just letting it go and realizing that whatever parts of it touch me are parts that I can handle. All right. So, hey, good morning, Danelle. Wonderful to see you here today. Uh, Janet says, when I created peace in myself and with myself, I found so much more peace with and for others. What a wonderful way of putting it, Janet. She says, my personal peace and therefore my outward peace is directly related to me keeping myself balanced in my own bubble. Yep. And as we realized, and that and our own bubble is the things that we do have the ability to facilitate change into. And so when we keep our bubble only exactly as large as our ability to facilitate change, we are at peace. But when our bubble gets so large that we can't actually control everything that's inside of it, then that's when this discord shows up in our lives. All right. So I want to say thank you guys again so much for being here. It has been a wonderful wake up call. I'll return tomorrow with another one of these. But until then, I just want to say go out, go forth, have an amazing, happy Monday. Get all kinds of cool stuff done and move forward on your dreams, which are important. Until we meet again, I will speak with you. Yeah. Until we meet again, I will speak with you again Monday on tomorrow at 9 a.m. But until then, just a quick reminder that I love you and care about you, that I believe all these words about you, that I believe that you not only are capable of embodying peace, but also that you just really are peace. And I see that when you interact with me, and I'm not going to pretend that I get along with everybody all the time, but at least when my friends interact with me, even when we don't agree, that we can always agree to disagree, and that we can always agree that my experience and your experience don't necessarily have to be the same one. That you can feel whatever you choose to feel, and so can I. But ultimately, as we continue to cultivate that serenity in our soul, that we are able to continue to really live in a more and more powerful way. So I am peaceful today. You are peaceful today as well. And so let's go forth and be peaceful. Let's attract other people to ourselves with that peace. And as we do, we will continue to empower others and change the world. My beautiful friends, I love you. I care about you. And I believe that you have the ability to really make this happen today, to have a completely different experience today than you did yesterday. It's a new day, my friends, and we are going to go rock it in it. Until we meet again, I love you and care about you. Aloha. from paradise.